There's what I'm seeing right now. Um, okay, and if you want to keep up my screen, you can actually click on my little icon down in the bottom right, and it'll stay up. So hopefully you all are seeing the resident manager desk manual that I have pulled up. I'm just going to go over kind of quickly tenant charged maintenance while tenants are living at your property and how to do that exactly. So first of all, in the resident manager desk manual, make it a little bit bigger so you can see. In the outline under maintenance that says tenant charged maintenance, there's a section about during tenancy and adding charges during the tenancy. So first, it has of all the things that tenants can be charged for. So I'd encourage you to go over this list, become familiar with it, and refer to it. This is actually from their lease, so you can refer to their lease when you're talking with tenants and telling them why you are charging them if they have questions about that. So these are all things that can be charged to tenants. So I guess the first thing is that you should all be charging your tenants for things that they're responsible for. So make sure you become familiar with this list, and if you ever have questions of whether or not a tenant should be charged, you can let me know, or ask somebody in the corporate office if you need any help on that. The second thing on adding charges during tenancy right here is basically how to do that. So you're going to want to do two things. First, you'll want to go into the work order, and I'll actually show you a work order that we have right now that needs to be charged to a tenant that I have saved. Okay, so order, a little bigger for you. This work order is to replace the broken glass in a window. Tenant gave us two pictures, said that it's outside, it broke the window. But unfortunately for them, that is a charge that we have to pass on to them, since there wasn't a police report or anything. So when you're looking at the work order, you'll go to the edit portion right here, click on edit, and scroll down all the way to the bottom. The box that says charge tenant when creating bill. You'll go ahead and check that. You will add a GL account for this. It's just, and then press save. That will save it so that when somebody in the corporate office or Tamarack goes and creates a bill, it automatically charges it to the tenant. Another thing that you'll want to do is when you're approving the invoice in Google Drive now, not ShareSync, you'll want to add tenant charge. You can do it in all caps, but do that after the file name. So it'll be the date, property, the vendor, and then you put tenant charge, and that'll be kind of a second way to show that that should be a tenant charge. So that's kind of a quick overview of tenant charges. Like I said, it has this list of 12 things when tenants will get a charge, and instructions on how to add those charges or make sure that they are added. And of course, communicate with the corporate office for charges to make sure that they're in correctly, and you can check those as well. So.
All right, thanks, Ethan. One other thing, that when you guys are getting that bill, the bill to tenant or charge to tenant option on the work order, make sure that the proper vendor is up there in the top. We've had a couple issues where JMC may have been initially sent and then we send it to a new vendor, but we didn't change the vendor on the work order. So we've actually had bills come through that have been entered in and checks written actually paying JMC for work that wasn't actually done by them. So let's just make sure that we have that always edited when we switch through vendors. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that? Nope, no questions. Everybody's just silent. You guys gotta wake up. Goodness gracious. All right. Well, Ethan, you're free to go, and we'll take it from there. I was just putting in notes on our agenda, so you guys can all follow along with that. Okay. So the next portion is our fair housing training review. You guys all finished fair housing, right? Just nodding. All right, let's just go down the line here, and I want you guys to share one thing that you learned. No repeats, okay? So we'll start with Jen.
I didn't hear you because my phone is going off in the background. What do I have to about fair housing? What?
Give us something that you learned this time when you took your fair housing training.
I learned about the service animals, a little bit more on the service animals. Hold on, because somebody's going to start talking. A little bit more on the service animals and how we really cannot discriminate whatsoever on them, pretty much. For housing, I've taken it a lot, so that's the only new thing that I got. Is that you or me?
That's you.
Sorry,
right.
somebody's leaving a message.
All right, Joanna, go ahead. You gotta unmute yourself.
Yep.
There you go. Hold on, you're muted still.
There?
Yeah, and Melinda, just turn your volume down for a minute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. One that I was saying a lot, that our community was quiet. So people would ask me, how does, the community, is this community quiet, and I was always bragging about, yes, we're so quiet, we're such a great community. And in the fair housing training, I learned that, we're not supposed to say that because it sort of gives an impression that, we don't invite people that are noisy or children. So that was a big one. I was like, what? I would never have thought, we're not allowed to say that we're a quiet community.
Yeah, you can't even point out like, oh, we have a playground for all the kids. We have
right. Yeah.
all, you can't do any steering or anything like that for family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
That. Ironically, the only one that you can is if it's a 55 and up community. Mm-hmm. All right, Melinda, you're next. So Joanna, go ahead and mute yours and also turn down your volume for a minute, okay?
Okay. One of the things that I learned may sound like a real small detail, but I learned that our fair housing sign has to be a certain size inside the office. It needed to be the larger size, the legal size, and we only have the letter size. So I did order a new sign to make sure we're compliant.
Cool. I didn't know that. I didn't learn that.
Yep.
All right, Peter, you're up. And Joanna, you can turn your volume back on.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, well, I learned a lot. It really says it in the name, fair housing. I mean, you really have to treat everyone the same. Their race, their sex, their age, it's really irrelevant. I mean, you really have to treat everyone equally. That's basically, I know it's very, I mean, it's obvious, but you really have to talk to everyone the same, give everyone the same opportunities. And again, race, sex, sexual orientation, economic, whatever. You have to just really treat everyone the same. That's what I got out of it.
All right, and Angela.
So one of the things that I learned that I thought was interesting was that they were in the process of having mini horses be service animals, which I was pretty curious on how that was going to work out. I just picture a bunch of mini horses running around the property, and that seems pretty interesting to me.
So, do any of you guys remember what the regulation is for what a service animal can be? So, like, do you remember what options they have, essentially, Angela?
So it could be really any kind of animal, dog, cat, lizard, turtle, mini horse, anything really, and we just can't really discriminate against it regardless of what somebody chooses. As long as it's state legal too, right? Because didn't they say something like, we're in California, it's illegal for ferrets. So obviously we can't have it in the state, we can approve it, right?
I would assume, because if I could, I'd get some sugar gliders.
Right. I think that was one of the other ones they said we couldn't have. As long
Those
as
things are awesome.
right.
Okay. So, did anybody else have anything more that they wanted to say about what they learned with the fair housing trains?
I just feel like the reason why they started the fair housing, this whole fair housing thing, is just for people to feel that everyone has a fair shake, a fair chance to get an apartment, where you're from, what your job is, just to really give everyone an equal opportunity to get what you want and to feel that you're being treated as an equal. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So, a couple things that I learned also were that service dogs, so trainers for service dogs, you can't charge them pet rent. So somebody can just be a trainer or say they're a trainer because there's not really a certification or anything for that. And so they can be training service animals, multiple. Discriminate against that. What else? Live-in care. So if somebody has live-in care, that person actually is not responsible for the rent. So they're not on the lease. Didn't know that. Sex offenders. So if somebody's a sex offender, you cannot automatically deny them. One that we learned. Joanna talked about it, discriminating families and how you pitch your property. So like, you can't say it's a quiet property or it's a private property or anything like that. You're not allowed to generalize with regard to the type of tenant that you have. Rules for children. You can't have any rules other than government mandated rules. So like the pool rules that we have are straight from California. They're not ones that we made up. So like you can't say no kids skateboarding in the tennis courts. You have to say no skateboarding in the tennis courts. Things like that. You can't say, oh, children on the property have to be accompanied by an adult. You can't make those kind of rules. And then the last one was citizenship and immigration status. We can't really ask anything about their immigration status or whether they're a citizen or not. All we can do is ask for government-issued photo ID as part of their application. So things that I learned and was refreshed on, I thought that they were really, really good topics. So moving on here, we have balancing and managing difficult tenants. So how many of you guys feel like you have difficult tenants? Oh, Joanna doesn't have any difficult tenants. She didn't raise her hand. She loves all her tenants. Jen, would you mind sharing how you deal with tenants that are being overly difficult?
Well, you know, a lot of mine have mental health issues here. For instance, Russell, the one that was just here. Russell, well, he's the only one I can think of at the moment. Russell, I have to be really stern with him because he takes a lot of medication, so it makes him kind of loopy and makes him sometimes violent. Sometimes he likes to break things. So I have to go and I kind of have to be careful because he could be combative, but with me, he's okay. He does listen to me. So I just have to be really stern and kind of talk to him. This is terrible, but I kind of am more like a mom to him, you know, just stern. You just have to be really stern and make sure that he understands that, no, this is not allowed. You can't do this. I will find people, like I threaten to find them, and they usually stop if there's something, not Russell, but other residents. You just have to really show that you're the one in charge. And I hate to say that because I'm not that kind of manager, but at least they know that they can't get away with anything. That's pretty much how I do it. Of course, you get the ones that, you know, try to push the limits, Russell, but you can get away. You can keep them under control as long as you're stern and you really do make sure that they know you're consistent with what you're saying. Sorry, I feel like I'm on stage.
Melinda, I'd like to get your take. I'd like to get your take on it, Melinda.
Okay. I could totally relate to what Jim is saying because I used to work right down the street from her. So it's a different demographic. Here, we have a lot of more educated people who tend to know a lot of laws and try to argue with us when it comes to more intellectual arguments of type things. So what I try to do is I try to bring them, instead of just, they like to come in and just rant on and vent and keep going. So what I try to do is get them away from the problem and into a solution. So I'm like, okay, I get it. You're unhappy. This is what happened. So now what can we do to fix it? And that generally will calm them down and bring them to a point where, okay, now instead of just, you know, going on and on and on and on and complaining, we're down to the solution. Or sometimes it'll show them that they're overreacting and being kind of over dramatic, you know, like, okay, this is going on, but I'm not the police. What can I really do for you? You know, we had a situation where we had a girl who said a homeless guy was scaring her in the morning, and she was mad because we didn't do anything about it. And I was trying to tell her, okay, it's 6 a.m., you know, in the morning, why didn't you call the police? And, you know, then finally when she, you know, she went on about it a long time. And then finally we got to the point where she was, okay, I get it. What can you do? I'm like, I'm a manager. I work in the office. What am I supposed to do? You know, you have to call the police. So finally got that resolved that way.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You have to listen to them and hear them out so that they understand that you understand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. How about you, Angela?
Just dealing with problematic tenants. I've kind of implied both methods where, you know, I talk to them intelligently to where they understand, especially like situations like Melinda was talking about. I explain to them, you know, what can I do? And a lot of times they do calm down and realize that I'm not the police. But then in other situations, I have to be very firm and stern, like Jen was saying. So I've kind of utilized both of those methods when dealing with tenants. And I just try to remain patient as feasibly possible with some people for as long as I possibly can. And that seems to work. A lot of times I just want to vent. So for the most part, I just let them get it out. That helps.
Okay. So part of what I'm trying to get to is, when is a problem tenant a tenant that needs to go? Where's that line? Where do we draw that line?
I think when it starts to be where they start threatening you, whether it would be verbally or if there's a physical. I've never had that, but if it starts to really push the boundaries of, threatening, I think that's when you need to kind of talk to them, and if they still keep acting irrationally, then you have to eventually kick them out. I mean, it's almost, you have to use your common sense, but it's for your own safety too, and for the safety of the tenants as well.
I think. Okay. I think when we become, like Peter said, threatened, but yet when they become harming and a threat also to the residents, not only to us, but to our surroundings. They could be out causing trouble at the pool, midnight, and that's not allowed. Either they're breaking rules or just causing trouble out there that we can keep it under control out there and keep our property safe. And like for example, this resident that just recently left, he was out, bugging people, and he was out, he wasn't hurting anybody, but he was a nuisance, and we weren't able to kick him out because of that. But thank goodness he left on his own. But had we probably proceed, to kicking him out, we probably would have had to move at a different, I guess, target him, in a different way, because he wasn't breaking the rules. He was, it was just really hard to prove that he was bothering people. And there were several residents that could have probably complained about him, and probably brought, this complaint to, he was smoking out in the patio. He was, smoking in the parking lot as well. So the smoking part, we could have probably, his apartment was trashed, completely a mess. And so we couldn't get him there because we weren't always in his apartment, but him smoking, or, just finding other ways that we could, get him out. But he's gone now, and and we were also, he was one that we had to be very stern with and tell him, Mr. Camarena, it's time to go, or, we got to get back to work, because he would come into the office and talk and wouldn't leave us alone.
I've talked to him before.
Yeah. Yeah. You
in person and on the phone. Okay.
Me and Matt, we call them the 5%ers. We have probably around 230 people at Villa de Cerro, and 5% of that is 11 people. You're going to get, if you put 100 people in a room, you're going to meet 4 or 5 goofballs. I just call them it's the 5% rule. So if you have 200 people at your complex, you're going to have 10 weirdos, for lack of better words. So I always kind of chalk it up to that, and it's usually the same 10 people. So you just kind of have to know who they are and just kind of be ready for them, and just use your intelligence and common sense. And if you guys ever have a problem, you can always call me or anyone here, and we'll help you.
Yeah.
5% of people are weird, basically. That's basically it.
Generally, about 20% of the residents take up about 80% of your time.
That's true. That's true.
And that's not the ones that we necessarily want, but it's not necessarily the ones that we want to get rid of. So it's a really important thing. So we have to look at balancing when we're going to give somebody notice to leave versus just sending them a letter saying, hey, get in line. Because we can probably go to just about anybody's apartment and figure out one way that they are breaking the rules, right? I mean, we can be sticklers about stupid things like, they didn't replace a light bulb when they should have. Things like that are breaking leases, but not necessarily time to get out right now because you're breaking your lease. Now, if somebody's smoking or, domestic violence or whatever it may be, then yeah, we're going to get people out hands down if they're not paying rent, right? But when do you guys call Cecilia? At what point do you guys call Cecilia for advice?
There you go. We call when it starts to interfere, either when it's presenting maybe some type of a liability or a lawsuit type, red flags go up, or sometimes it's just they're interfering with the course of us being able to do business. Like we had one person who she had mental disabilities, but she was running around with a half shirt on and bothering residents, always saying that she needed to call 911 for delusional things. And one time a prospective saw this while Joanna was showing a unit. So at that point, it's like, okay, no, that's got to go, because that's affecting our business and being able to lease apartments and keep residents, resident retention and all that.
I'm going to say extreme nuisance affecting business and enjoyability. Well, Jen, when do you call Cecilia?
My property's a nightmare. I usually call Cecilia, like Melinda was saying, if there's ever going to be a lawsuit, like you can tell a lawsuit is coming, or in my case at Pepper Creek, if we have like deaths, things like that, suicides, remember? That's really the only times I usually call Cecilia, is legal items. Or if I need to vent. Cecilia's really good to vent too. But she definitely will tell you the laws if you don't know them.
So when do you guys call Shane? Peter, when do you call Shane?
I've called Shane whenever I've had kooky stuff. Like, for example, this was like 6 months ago. Apartment 27 was, I believe it used to be a really, really big storage shed, and it was converted into a studio apartment. And SDG&E couldn't find it on their grid because the electric for that apartment was the same electric that was used throughout the building, not for the individual unit. So it was a simple solution. We just basically charged them a flat rate of electricity. Shane's a very smart guy, a very, very, very smart guy. And whenever I can't figure stuff out, I usually call him, honestly.
So, I really like that. Shane is actually is really fast and very attentive to details. When you guys have those beginning problems, I would really like it if you guys, before they say lawyer, before there's a real liability, or before you've made up your mind that you want to get rid of somebody, let's call Shane first on it. Cecilia's just been so swamped with everything. We're trying to better manage her time so that she can get the important things that she has done as well. I know she was a great one to vent to and everything.
I'm sorry. 90% of the phone calls I have with Cecilia is with Section 8. So we've got a lot of Section 8 issues. So yeah, most of my conversations with Cecilia is about Section 8 and all the stuff going on with them.
Yeah, and those questions still direct to Cecilia. She'll be our Section 8 specialist. Okay. So we're done with them, which hopefully is soon. Longer for Pepper Creek than everywhere else. Sorry. After hours emergencies. What do you guys count as real after hours emergencies? What do you count, Angela?
You're cutting out. What did you say?
What do you count as an after hours emergency is going to get you out of bed to take care of?
A slab leak. I've had a few of those recently, and those are super important to take care of immediately. So
What else? What do you think, Joanna?
No water. Okay. No water in the apartment, or no hot water in the apartment. We've had a lot of those, like water heaters go out, and they want to call Drain Medic, and Drain Medic will put a new water heater in there. That's a huge expense, sometimes not even needed. So that we have a lot of that.
What if somebody's power's out? Is that something you're going to get up in the middle of the night to take care of?
Can you repeat that one more?
What if there is a tenant that has their power out?
I've never had an instance of a power outage in the middle of the night. Every after hours issue I've had has always been plumbing. That's a good question, though, Thomas. If there is a power outage in the middle of the night, what do we do? That's a good question.
It depends on if it's one tenant or if it's one breaker or if it's a whole complex, right? So generally, power outages, I don't count as an after-hours emergency for you guys. It's something that you can take care of in the morning. No one's going to die. It's not going to cause more damage to anything. Those are the after-hours emergencies that I expect you guys to handle. If it's going to damage the property further by you not getting on top of it right away, that's the kind of thing. So water leaks or people without water, that's borderline. Drain Medic, if they go and they're going to replace something, they should talk to you. And if they don't, we will chew them out for you, because they should not be replacing water heaters or anything like that, because it's not an after-hours emergency. They understand that, or at least they should. Even if the tenants call and are freaking out, they understand what our guidelines for an after-hours emergency is. If they go when it's not, we're not going to let them charge us for the after-hours call, which is like, for 1 hour, it's like $600 automatic. If there's a, go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say the cardinal rule for after-hours emergencies I've always done is fire, flood, and sometimes blood. You know, so if it's, you know, flames shooting out the window, please call 911, then come get me. You know, if flooding, of course, and then especially here at Pepper Creek, blood, come get me. Those are what I tell all my residents. If it's something that can't wait till the next business day, then of course, you know, would be flooding, fire, that kind of stuff. Power, I would think that would either be gas and electric, or like you said, if it's a breaker or something. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents I wanted to give.
Oh, I like it. I like that. I haven't heard that fire, flood, or sometimes flood. Interesting. So what if, I don't expect you guys to handle noise complaints at 9 o'clock at night. I don't expect that of you guys. And I know all of you guys get people who come and knock on your door at 10 o'clock because the neighbor's being a jerk, right? Just say, you know, if they're in there and they're incessant, I would just say, send me an email, or I'll jot it down and we'll take care of that in the morning. But I don't expect you guys to truly interrupt your night for anything other than a fire or a flood or a natural disaster of some sort. I guess the only other thing would be if police are actually there on the property. Expect you guys to get an instant report about that. Okay. Joanna, I know you asked for budgeting, but for the sake of time today and keeping this as short as possible, we're going to have that on its own separate one because it gets kind of crazy. And we're working on streamlining that process as much as possible for everybody. with Tamara being on with us now, it's actually helped a lot of our payables, and bills are getting entered, and she's on top of it, helping us out a lot that way. I wanted to go over a couple accounting highlights that I've seen. Every month I go reconcile all of our bank accounts, every single transaction that comes through, and I review every single one. And there are a couple of mistakes that I keep seeing that come through and alter that reconciliation process and cause errors. First one, never, ever, ever, ever give somebody a credit on their ledger. Don't ever even touch that button. It's never a good thing. I always have to go back and fix it. Just don't do the credit option. Just talk to me, send me an email, let me do it so I understand, because it will throw off the back end of our accounting. Super important. Never give a credit. Even if Cecilia says we're going to give them a credit, that's not how we actually do it. Okay? Just talk to me about it, and I'll be training Tamara on how to do that more and more as she grows into her position. So just send those to me if there's ever money that you're going to give back. Okay? Next one. This is standard. Everybody knows this, but a number of you guys are not doing it. I need a PDF copy of a check on every single receipt that you make. If you have to go in and reapply a receipt, it will take out that PDF and you have to reattach it. If you reverse a receipt and have to redo one, I still need that PDF copy of the check. This is huge. I don't want you guys to go through and do your rents and have a scan folder. If any of you guys have just a scan folder with a number of documents in there, that's unacceptable. Those need to be filed right away. I don't want you guys to ever be going back into Appfolio and saying, oh, I'll just go and attach that PDF later, because later never happens. It's always later. And then when I need it, I can't find it. So please always, always, always attach your PDFs and keep your scans folders empty. The other problem I found is renter's insurance. And I know you guys have been going over the change to the new amount. And that's all taking effect this next week. So we'll have to make sure that everybody's charges are correct on there. So each of you should be going through all of your tenants that have our liability insurance and making sure that their liability insurance admin fee is correct. A couple things to make sure that you guys look at when you do that. You can obviously just go through the rent roll itemized report and it'll bring that up for you, and you can just filter by that GL account. Two common mistakes. One, it's been getting put to the wrong GL account. I have a bunch of admin fees that come through as application fee income. And as I find them, I change them. But I keep finding them, and it's super annoying because obviously that's not application fee income. So make sure that it is the same GL account as the automatic charge from Appfolio. It's not a number, it's just Appfolio Insurance Services. Nothing different. It should be exactly the same. So as you guys go through and look at those charges this week, make sure that all of those GL accounts are correct on the monthly charges. Okay?
Hey, Thomas, yesterday I went through literally every single apartment, and I know starting June 30th, if they don't have their own renter's insurance, it's going to go from $15 a month to $35 a month. Could you go over again what you said under the actual, you said Appfolio charges, and could you go over again what it needs to be named specifically? Appfolio income charges, is that what you said?
It would be Appfolio Income Services. Now let's see if I can just find one that's messed up.
Because I might have to change about 20 of those today.
Yeah. Bear with me as I pull this up. My my computer's going super slow today. Probably because I'm streaming a video call right now and have like a dozen other tabs running. Oh my word, this is slow. All right, so although I can't even get my computer to go right now. So can one of you guys pull up your any tenant with the AppFolio insurance services on it? Can you do that for me, Joanna?
Yeah, Tom, I'm looking at mine right now. For example, apartment 38, Oscar Pena. Under the GL account, I have his for the 9.
So go ahead.
It's
Peter,
under
go ahead and
AppFolio.
share your screen.
Oh, you share your screen.
Or now, how do I go about doing that?
So if you hover over on the left-hand side of your video screen, there's a little green computer monitor with an arrow.
You see it? Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm really high.
Yeah, I see the green box that says screen share.
Yeah.
Okay, I just clicked that.
Yep, and then just select the screen, because I think you have two monitors, right? So select the monitor that has your AppFolio up.
Did you guys see it? Oh my, heavily.
Just click on your AppFolio tab.
Do you guys see it now?
We had it for a minute, and then it went away.
Or how about now? I mean, it's Oscar
What
Pena.
tenant was it?
Oscar Pena, apartment 38. I have his GL account as AppFolio Insurance Services. Is that correct or incorrect what I'm doing?
All right, let me just pull them up, and I'll share my screen with everybody.
Okay.
Ah, okay. All right, essentially, so you have your admin fee, right? And then you have your normal automatic insurance charge, right? That leaves everybody.
Yep. You know, Thomas, I can't see it, Thomas. I'm only seeing myself right now.
Yeah, my computer is like freezing out right now. So can you hear me, Peter?
I can hear you. Yep.
All right, so you guys can all hear me. So I'm not going to be able to share my screen, apparently. My Google Hangouts is now not responding, but apparently I can still talk to you guys. So as long as the GL account for that automatic charge is the same as the GL account for the admin fee, you are doing it correctly.
Okay.
If it's anything different, then it's not going to be correct.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it does.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm back alive. A little bit of a computer fart here. But, okay. Does everybody get what I mean with the GL accounts there? Okay. The other thing is, we never prorate that charge. It is a flat fee. We don't prorate the admin fee. We don't prorate the $9.50. It's a flat fee, whether it's one day or whether it's the whole month. It's the same charge. Because we get charged the $9.50 whether it's one day or if it's the whole month. So we're never going to prorate that fee. It's flat and set. Other than that, I am pretty much done with my items on my schedule. Did you guys have any other questions that were pressing to you guys?
Not really.
All right, then. Well, if nobody has any questions, you guys can all stop and be gone.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.